would have before Evoto. And then I'm going to do it in Evoto as well and see what result looks better, and then also which one's faster. So I'm going to go ahead and just duplicate my background layer. I processed this out of raw, just really basically. I didn't do anything too fancy. And I'm just going to zoom in and do my thing here. All right, that's probably how I would leave that in Photoshop. I'm at 3 minutes and 55 seconds. So about 4 minutes to hand remove all of that out of there. All right, now you could do this as a preset. For argument's sake, let's do the sliders rather than using a preset. So I'm going to reset all of this. And then let's export that. I'm going to go back into Photoshop and get our, this is the one that we retouched in Photoshop. So I'm going to call this Photoshop. And then I'm going to place my new Evoto layer on top. Okay, so here is the difference. This is Evoto, and it took me 1 minute, almost exactly 1 minute. And that was even with fussing with the healing brush. That's Evoto. That's Photoshop. Evoto, Photoshop, Evoto. I think Evoto's a little bit better. I don't mind Photoshop. Photoshop actually probably looks a little bit more realistic because the texture of her face is not so even that it looks like it's been worked on, versus like this one has a little bit of a like processed look to it, if you will. It's not like horrible by any means. And there are some little, like there's a little flaky here on her eye still. And I just noticed that there's this hair here. So there are some things that it missed in Evoto and other things that it did better. 4 minutes versus 1 minute. I don't know. It's hard to argue that Photoshop's the better choice for this type of image. And just for the sake of argument, I'm going to do one really quickly where I just do neural filters without doing any of that work to begin with. So when I did my Photoshop layer here, I went in and I used my healing brush to get rid of a bunch of those spots manually. This time I'm going to go up to filter, neural filters. I'm going to choose her face. And if you remember last time, I had my blur and my smoothness pretty high to try and get rid of a lot of this. So I'm going to just bring those up. Somewhere around there is probably about how I would, maybe even a little bit further to try and get rid of some of this grit in her forehead. I'll leave it like that. I'm going to click OK. And now there's where she started. That's what it looks like with the neural filters. And that's what it looks like with Evoto. So the biggest difference that I see is, can you see how the neural filters have blurred all of these details around her shadow areas, around her nose and mouth and eyes. And so it's losing some of that textural detail in those areas, versus Evoto has smoothed out her skin, but left those shadows intact so that you're not losing those details the same way that neural filters are. The other big thing with neural filters is, yes, it smoothed a lot of it, but it left us with all of these little things that we're still going to have to manually take out. So there's a ton of work that still has to be done, even after that neural filters has been run at a pretty high level there. So comparison wise, you just can't compare. Evoto is so much faster and does such a better job than the neural filters. It's kind of silly.